All right, so thank you for joining us for today's student panel. We're glad to have you with us, and we hope that you decide to turn tartan. We hope that this panel can answer some of your questions about student life at Carnegie Mellon. My name is Maria McTighe, and I'm one of the assistant directors of admission. I'm going to have each of the panelists introduce themselves, and then we will get started. So, Bella, do you want to start us off?
Sure. My name is Bella. I'm a senior studying chemistry in our Mellon College of Science. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts, and when I'm not giving tours or doing student panels, I do research on campus in the Mellon Institute, and I'm also a member of a few cultural organizations, including First Together and Spirit.
Awesome. All right, Michael?
Hi there, my name is Michael. I am a fifth year within the School of Architecture from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I am currently in my last semester, graduating spring 2020. But when not helping out with the ambassador team, I do participate in Greek life. I'm within a number of advocacy design groups in Architectural Journal, and I also design and produce a fashion show.
Wonderful. Rachel?
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel. I am a junior in the College of Engineering. I double in civil engineering with an additional in engineering public policy. It's definitely a mouthful sometimes. Like I said, I'm a junior, and in terms of campus involvement, when I'm not working with the ambassador program, I have been president of Hong Kong Student Association, and I have also been a physics TA.
Wonderful. Finally, Catherine.
Hey guys, my name is Catherine. I am a fifth year majoring in policy management within the Dietrich College. I am from Northern Virginia, and on campus, besides working in the Welcome Center, I've had a couple of other on-campus jobs. I have done research, I've TA'd, I'm a part of Greek life, and yeah, that's me.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we're going to start off our first question. How interdisciplinary do you think campus is, and how free are you to do research / take classes in things that aren't related to STEM? So Bella, what are your thoughts on this?
So Carnegie Mellon does a really good job at encouraging students to really pursue all of their passions. In my experience, research has never been confined to your major. I do research within the chemistry department solely because I really only like chemistry. That's kind of one of my lines. However, in my lab, I work with people from physics. There's a chemical engineer in my lab, and chemists, even in my department, have been recruited to do research in other departments like chemical engineering or biology. And some students even go so far as to do things that are completely unrelated, mixing two completely different fields. And Carnegie Mellon just does a really good job at encouraging students in all fields, STEM or otherwise, to pursue research in any interest they have.
Awesome. Thanks, Bella. All right, so next question. Is there help provided if a student is struggling with a class or subject, and how was your transition from high school to CMU? So Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
So Carnegie Mellon actually has an entire center dedicated towards helping students work through any sort of academic challenges they may be facing, called the Student Academic Success Center. Sorry. And within the center, students are able to work with academic coaches, peer tutors, and others who are there to support you as you work through anything from language barriers to supplemental instruction to course-specific support and more. And kind of regardless of whatever challenges you as an individual may face, there is a large support team of staff and students ready to help you out there. More specifically, kind of about my transition from high school into Carnegie Mellon, it wasn't necessarily an easy process, as I know is the case for many students. There's definitely a period where you'll be working to adjust to these new types of living, eating, and learning. Kind of more specifically for me, being within architecture, there was a massive learning curve in trying to learn how to perceive space, refining my drawing methods, representation, and kind of just trying to get better about talking about architecture as an entire field. But something that's been really beneficial for me within the kind of like support staff within the School of Architecture, it's important to remind yourself that you're not alone. You're not the only one trying to work through this transition, and everyone around you is also working to figure it out. So everyone's definitely willing and able to help you out if you're able to ask them.
Great points. I see some of the other students kind of shaking their heads on that one as well. So next question, is it difficult to incorporate a dual major into your schedule? We did get a lot of questions about this. So Rachel, feel free to answer this one.
So personally, I myself am a dual major. I have one of those duals. Well, they're really called additional majors in the College of Engineering, where you take one core major. So mine would be civil engineering, and then you add on an additional major. Mine is engineering public policy. So in my case, it's really doable. I really think that it was something that was it came naturally to me. We take introductory classes, and the next thing you know, you're like, "Huh, I kind of want to tack on another major," and there you are. But with that being said, it's definitely a case by case basis kind of thing. Some dual majors, so if you want to add a major, if you will, is really easy. You can just literally talk to the head department, be like, "I'm really interested in this." Take the prerequisite classes, fill out some paperwork, and that's that. But with some other majors, sometimes it does require some, not just the course prerequisite, but you need uh, certain GPA, you need a certain like demonstrated interest in why you want to change into that major or at that major instead of just like being like, I kind of want to do it. Um, so I personally do think it's really doable. You just kind of definitely have to talk with your advisor and talk with the people who are in the relevant department to gauge your interest and see what are the steps that you need to take. But CMU is definitely not a school where they're gonna say like, oh, you declared this major when you came in, or you applied with this intent of major and you have to do that. That's definitely not the case. If you want to do that and you want to do more, then you're most of the time more than welcome to. The only times where it's really a slight caveat is like if it's a little too much work. Like for example, doing a double major in like design and architecture would be way too much because that's just so much studio work and quite frankly they're similar programs. So kind of thinking about stuff like that is important when as to you're deciding whether you want to do a dual major or you just want to take classes in that other major and see if you like it for yourself.
Yeah, great answer, Rachel. Okay, so kind of going off of that, and you alluded to this a little bit, but how easy is it to change your major or your field of study? I think a lot of students have concerns about this. So, Catherine, what is your take on this?
Yeah, so I actually switched my major from civil engineering, sorry, Rachel, to policy management within the Dietrich College. So I switched from one college to another one. So that process is a little bit more different versus if you're looking into different engineering majors or whether you're looking into different humanity majors. But for me, kind of a little bit already about what Rachel had said, it really is about communicating with your advisor, really keeping in touch with him or her throughout your whole process of your curriculum and making sure that that major is a really good fit for you. And if it's not, a lot of it's also your own research as to what you want to do career wise or what you want to be able to learn throughout your time at Carnegie Mellon. Yeah, just really being able to have that time to communicate with other advisors of other majors and just learning more about what their students learn about and what they achieve with their majors. But yeah, I suggest first years especially to take classes within their department or even outside of the department that they weren't really thinking about. Just really being able to explore because there's a lot to learn at CMU. And you might think that you might be set on one major, but then you take this really cool class that you haven't even considered taking before coming into college. So definitely being able to explore during your first year if your schedule permits.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. I think that helps to answer a lot of their questions. Okay, so next question. How would you describe the students at CMU? This is a pretty broad question, but I think especially now with students aren't able to come to campus to visit to see what it's like. I guess, Michael, do your best to describe the students at CMU and just give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is definitely a hard question to answer, just given that there is so much diversity across our campus. There's people that come from so many different backgrounds with so many passions and so much drive. And Bella was kind of touching on these ideas of interdisciplinarity on our campus. Um, and with 100% certainty, I can say that like you are not alone with your interests on our campus. No matter how niche it may be, there are other people with similar interests as you. And some of the ways to kind of find these people and find these interests that you may not know about is obviously within your classes and within your freshman housing, but also through the hundreds of student organizations that exist across our campus. And as Catherine said, like even taking classes through different departments. All the students on our campus are really eager about their specific field of study, about other fields of study, and are truly excited to talk about the courses they take, the research they participate in, and where they kind of see themselves going. So I guess if I had to describe the students on our campus in only a few words, I would say we're all very passionate, eager, enthusiastic, and curious.
Yeah, those are all great words to describe the students and all of you. Very curious students. So awesome. So next question. CMU is known to have a very academically oriented student life. How has your social experience been at CMU? Are there people willing to enjoy and chill at times? Is there fun stuff to do? So this person had a lot of questions for this. So Rachel, can you answer this question?
Sure. So some background context on myself so that it makes sense when I answer this. I'm from Hong Kong, which is why I was part of the Hong Kong Student Association. And I also went to boarding school. So boarding school is kind of like tiny college sometimes, if you will, because you're like living with the people who you go to school with, except you're all kind of just coming out of puberty. It's kind of funny. But because of that, I came to CMU with not fear, but like I had expectations of like what that sense of community was going to feel like. So I was like really thinking like, oh wow, like I want to have that same sort of community, but I'm kind of nervous as well. But my social experience at CMU has been really nice. I personally feel very integrated with the community. I think Michael definitely touched on this in terms of like organizations on campus. There are a lot of different pathways that you can take to find your people, if you will. Um, so I know for a lot of people that means Greek life. For me personally, that meant Hong Kong Student Association. I got to know people in this organization really, really well. And like they have a very special place in my heart. And they're people who I know that I can like go to for anything. But that being said, that was a really niche part. The other example that I like to give is my roommate. My current roommate is still my roommate from first year. We've lived together all 3 years. She is a completely different person to me. She is like super into sports. She's actually on the varsity softball team. She's from Connecticut. Like we are like worlds apart. But she's in the tech school business, which I have taken one class in and was like, I don't understand any of this. So I think even though we're such different people, like we find a lot of fun things to do. She drags me to hockey games because downtown Pittsburgh is so close. We take the buses there and then she explains to hockey to me. I don't personally still understand hockey. I know there's a line and there's a puck and that's that. But Pittsburgh is a fun town in which that like if everyone cheers, you just know that you have to stand up and cheer with them. So it's a fun game to like watch and participate in from my perspective. So I definitely think even just like with the people in Carnegie Mellon, you're definitely going to find your people. But there's also just being in such a nice city of Pittsburgh, there's always going to be something for somebody, whether that's in the sports or you want to go see a concert. I saw the Jonas Brothers this year. That was a life-changing experience. So I definitely think that socially, you're going to have a great time here.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so next question. What services are offered to prepare students for internships or jobs? So Catherine, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so here at Carnegie Mellon, we actually have a center called the Korean Professional Development Center, which we here call the CPDC. And essentially, each college has its own set of advisors specific to the students that are in that college. So for instance, I'm in the Dietrich College, and so I have a Dietrich advisor within the CPDC. And they really range in their services, anything from if you're completely unsure of what you want to do with your major, they kind of help you steer towards certain resources that kind of help you figure that out with your skills. But even anything from job interview practice, case interview practice, resume reviews, and anything like that, they're 100% willing to meet with people. Even during these extraordinary times, they've been emailing constantly with virtual appointments, Skype appointments. So they've really been able to reach out to students who are a little bit stressed, like the class of 2020 with looking for employment opportunities. But outside of the CPDC, professors are more than willing to network with you. Particularly if you have a professor or know a professor that has a career path that you are interested in, or if they've done research that you're interested in, they're more than willing to meet with you one-on-one to kind of talk you through that. Carnegie Mellon also has a ton of job fairs. I think we have at least one a month, which is pretty extraordinary, but there's always opportunity to network with people within CMU or even outside of CMU.
Great. I know that a lot of students did have that question because going to college, your goal is to get a job. So yeah, thanks, Catherine. Okay. So this is also a popular question. I'm sure you guys get a lot as ambassadors, but what is the dining experience like at CMU? So Bella, what are your thoughts on the dining?
So Carnegie Mellon's interesting in that we don't have a centralized dining location. Like I've been on other college campuses where they kind of have like one or two main cafeterias, and Carnegie Mellon doesn't have that. Instead, we have like 40 different like places to eat scattered all across campus, and they are all different. And so there really is something for everyone. I'm a notoriously picky eater and I eat on campus all the time, which says something. So like my sophomore year, I discovered this place that like sold only mac and cheese. And I was like, listen, this is where I'm going on this day every day. Or there was another place that was really close to a lot of my classes that I just ate all the time because it was convenient. That's another thing that's really nice about dining here, since it is scattered all across the campus. You're never far from food. There are some places that I used to just like, I didn't go to one of the eateries just because it was so far from where like I spent time on, and it didn't make sense for me to like go to that half of campus. And then when I finally decided to go to that half of campus, I discovered that it was like a whole different set of food that was amazing and new. So it's nice to not get tired of food. And there's vegetarian and vegan options. If you have an allergy, there's a place that doesn't make food with the major allergy groups, and you can pre-order it so it's safe. And like I said, if you're a picky eater like myself, I promise you'll find something.
Awesome. Thank you, Bella. Okay, so we're going to do another question. Okay, so we're going to go to Michael for this one. Could you tell us more about your experience of having an on-campus job? Because this is available to a lot of students, so just want to kind of explain that from a student perspective.
Yeah, so I've actually had 3 different on-campus jobs within my 5 years at Carnegie Mellon. The one obviously with the ambassador program, the other working on the art store on our campus, and then I've also worked as a teaching assistant for the second year class within the School of Architecture. On top of that, there are tons and tons of different job opportunities that exist, whether it's assisting within like larger university programming like the ambassadors, or it's a teaching position within your specific department. There's also lots of research opportunities kind of spread throughout. And so these job opportunities are not hard to come by. You will find them in your day-to-day. As someone was talking about, like in discussions with your professors, people are eager to help you. And if you are interested in looking for any sort of job or any way to help someone, any way to kind of push yourself professionally in whatever direction that might be, those opportunities are definitely there. And similar to other things, whoever you end up working with is definitely passionate to kind of learn about you, see what you're interested in, and kind of help you achieve those goals through those job opportunities that you're finding.
Awesome. Okay. So another question, is it difficult to study abroad? I know I've had a lot of prospective students asking this question, especially if they have a major that they think might be a little bit more difficult to study abroad. So how does that typically work? Bella, can you answer that one?
Sure. So we do actually have a study abroad office with, again, similar to CPDC, with professionals dedicated to each school that can really help students kind of tailor their experience. And there's definitely a lot of different ways you can go about it. So some people, it's really easy to shift things around in their major in terms of gen ed so that they can, take a few of their gen eds abroad. Other students will go through partner programs. So I know a few students who are planning to do a kind of transfer study abroad program with Imperial College in the UK. And they're in chemical engineering. So that's probably one of the majors that's traditionally people are a little bit more apprehensive about studying abroad. I know a lot of people in my department like to research abroad. Carnegie Mellon actually has grants in both the winter and summer that encourage students to do research abroad and actually get paid for it. So there are a million different ways you can do it, and there are tons of resources both in the study abroad office and just your own advisor that are really able to help you study abroad if that's what you want.
Great. Thanks, Bella. Okay, so we're going to move on to the final question, but I think we're going to do a two-part. So, first question, why did you choose to attend CMU ultimately? And what do you love most about CMU? I think those can couple together pretty nicely. So think about those answers. And if we want to go around and you guys can maybe take those one at a time. Bella, do you want to start?
So I always feel like coming from Boston, people kind of like quirk their head to the side a little bit when I'm on tour. And they're like, oh, so you're from Massachusetts where there's like a million institutions and you came to, Pittsburgh. And one thing that really drew me to Carnegie Mellon is I always kind of knew I wanted to be in STEM science field. And I'm not going to lie, chemistry in particular, the curriculum is very, very similar at every institution. But an institution's ability to develop students kind of outside the classroom with research opportunities, with internship opportunities, even just with developing soft skills. And that's something that the Mellon College of Science really, really promoted and something that really stuck out to me. Additionally, Pittsburgh is a phenomenal city. I like to call it a little mini Boston. It is very similar in terms of culture, except half the people and twice the landmass. So a lot less claustrophobic. So, I mean, it was an incredible opportunity, and I was very fortunate that I got in, and it's been great.
Great. Thanks, Bella. Michael, do you want to go next?
Sorry, I was struggling to unmute myself. But in looking at which universities I wanted to attend, I kind of always knew, well, maybe not always, since I was 9, most of my life, that I wanted to go to school for architecture. And in the end, it kind of came down between 2 different schools for me, which were very highly ranked programs, but they had very different teaching strategies. It was kind of between a more classical education and one that was more forward-thinking and interdisciplinary. Ultimately, I chose Carnegie Mellon, obviously, which I saw as the more forward-thinking one, much more progressive opportunities, and a much more explorative program. And in all honesty, the kind of opportunities that I found within my program and across our campus have kind of exceeded my expectations, which I guess speaks to some of my favorite parts about CMU. Whether it's through like the student organizations that I participated in that I kind of talked about in my introduction or within my specific coursework, I've actually found a lot of passions and creative practices that I probably never would have explored or considered exploring, would have had the opportunity to actually like learn from people who do these things in real practice. And so I think it's just every day kind of as I walk into class, I'm meeting a new person, I'm learning a new skill, and it's things that I kind of carry out in my day to day and have started to shape my identity.
Great. Thank you, Michael. All right, Rachel, you're next.
Okay, so for me personally, I was actually an art major in high school, so I like oil painted 24/7. And then come senior year, I was like thinking about colleges, obviously, like applications are starting, and I was like, not totally committed to oil painting for the rest of my life. And my mom and I were talking about it, and she was like, well, why don't you look at schools that have like a good engineering program and an art program? Because I was already enrolled in like the correct science and math courses. And I was like, okay. Um, and when it came down to it, I got into no art schools and I got into some really great engineering schools. So I was like, admissions people do this for a living. I should maybe heed their advice a little, little poke from the universe. So I decided on Carnegie Mellon because I think it has a really great arts program, but it also has a really great engineering program. And how the school approaches interdisciplinary thinking and in the classroom and outside the classroom. Like it's not like okay, if I feel like engineering is not for me, I don't want to look at physics ever again. I felt very confident in what else the school had to offer. And I also felt confident that this was a place that I could grow and figure out myself as a person because of that. Ultimately, I've decided to stay in engineering, and I think that's partially due to kind of what Michael said in terms of its forward thinking. Engineering still is really traditional as a discipline, but like how you apply the problems and like what they let you try otherwise apart from your traditional engineering classes is really cool. So that's why I chose CMU.
Great. Thanks, Rachel. All right, Catherine, you're the last one.
Yeah, so personally for myself as a first generation Latina Hispanic student, I was really looking for a passionate community that could both inspire me to be a better version of myself and I could just constantly be learning from. And I had the chance to actually visit CME before I officially committed, and I just loved it. You could really feel the energy. I actually came during Carnival weekend during one of our traditions for campus, so that was really great to see. But just being able to see like all these different people going after their passions, whether it be in their major or in their extracurriculars or research, starting a startup, like anything really like that, was just really inspiring for me to see. And that's why I chose to come to CMU. And I've really loved it ever since because it really became the community that I was looking for. Anything from professors being willing to meet with you during or out of office hours, being able to be a part of Greek life, being able to just be able to meet a lot of different people from different backgrounds, majors, and just learning from them constantly just really pushed me to be a better version of myself and to discover that I did not want to be in a certain major, and really anything like that. So it's been great so far.
Wonderful. Great. Well, thank you guys all so much for answering all the questions that some of the students had. And thank you, students, for watching. We are going to be having another student panel on April 17th. So we're probably going to be having some different panelists, so you can hear from a couple more students on their experience, and we'll be answering some other questions that might not have been able to be asked today. So we thank you so much, and we hope that you turn tartan. And if you have any questions, just contact the admissions office, or you can ask an ambassador as well at their email address, which is on the website. So yeah, hope you guys have a great day, and thanks for tuning in.